Law.com talk and text line at 1-877-794-1973. That's 1-877-794-1973.
If I'm in this crummy situation, let's make content out of it.
The Matt Schneidman Show is brought to you by Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet above the rest.
Never go corporate. Always go local.
With Hunter Baumgardt, here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
It's going to be a good one. On 2.5 hours of sleep, it's the Matt Schneidman Show with Hunter Baumgardt. That's the beauty of these West Coast road trips, and that's the beauty of having a radio show that you have to get back for. I said this on the show last week, but in prior years, I would always make it a point to get the first flight out of town on Monday morning to get back for Matt LaFleur's day after press conference, and I think that's important for sure. But I also think it's important to not have your sleep schedule screwed up for the entire week. And I would say there are more important things during the week of availability that you got to be, on your toes for than Matt LaFleur's day after presser, where other people can handle stuff. Guys like Jason Wilde and Bill Huber who don't travel, while Rob and I are making our way back from wherever they play, and Wes and Spoff who travel back with the team right after the game. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to take the first flight out anymore. Then I got a radio show, and now I have to take the first flight out to make it back in time to do this freaking show. So I was on a 6 a.m. bird out of Seattle. And listen, after these night games especially, it's hard to wind down right when you get back to your hotel. So I got about, 2.5, 3 hours of sleep last night, but we're ready to go. We got a lot to break down. And as we do every day after game, whether it's a Friday or a Monday, or in next week's case, a Tuesday, Hunter Baumgardt and I will give you our biggest takeaway from the game. In other words, our final judgment presented by Habush, and Rotier. And my final judgment, and I'm saying this to tease something I have coming tomorrow on The Athletic, Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a Pro Bowler in this league. Probably not this year, but there's a chance it happens next year. This guy is a stud. In my opinion, player of the game last night. The rookie linebacker out of Texas A&M, the first linebacker taken in the draft at number 45 overall, had missed the last 3 games with a hamstring injury he suffered in practice before that Thanksgiving game against the Dolphins yesterday. And Matt LaFleur read his stat line to the team in the post-game locker room in the video the team released before giving him one of 2 game balls. The other went to Romeo Doubs. 7 tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs, 2 PBUs, 2 quarterback hurries, and a pick. And if you watch the tape back, he was at the center of 3 tackles on kickoff coverage before the 30-yard line. So on 3 kick returns the Seahawks had, worse starting field position than if they would have just taken a touchback. Not that, the ball didn't go into the end zone, so they didn't have a choice. But Edgerrin Cooper, a complete performance. He's going to be a really important piece, not only for the rest of this season and into the playoffs, assuming the Packers make it. I think it's a safe assumption they will, but for years to come, a centerpiece for this defense. Extremely versatile player, fast, can do everything, can drop into coverage, can rush the quarterback, can make plays on special teams. Edgerrin Cooper, future Pro Bowler. My final judgment of Week 15, Hunter Baumgardt.
That's good. I mean, that's I can't disagree with any of that. The way he was able to come back from injury, it's one thing to have a game like that in the middle of the season, late in the season, what have you. But for him to come off of injury and be that impactful was so impressive. And he, like you said, he did it all. Passing game, special teams, pass rush. I mean, the pass rush was outstanding against the Seattle offensive line. And he was in the middle of that. And just, the impact that he's had and the impact that this rookie class has had on defense has been, we've talked about it, has been really remarkable. And it just went up another level with that performance by Cooper last night.
We'll get into the pass rush, but, I kind of sprung this on you, and maybe that was my lack of sleep, not preparing as well as we could have for the show. I need your final judgment, too.
Oh, well, I can make it.
Okay, let's get it.
My final judgment was that was the signature win of the season for the Packers last night. That was the most signature win. When you look at all of their wins so far, they swept the NFC West. They swept the AFC South, 8-0 against both, and honestly blew out 3 of the 4 teams in the NFC West. Beat Arizona by 21, beat San Francisco by 28, beat Seattle by 17. And then the Rams they beat by 5, but that didn't even feel like it was necessarily out of hand or anything like that or close. So they impressive, and that was their win. You could say Houston at home probably is the other one that comes to mind. But you didn't beat Minnesota, you didn't beat Detroit, and so you didn't beat Philly. So I think this is, and considering the environment, I don't think Seattle's necessarily, in fact, I think Tampa Bay is probably a better team, especially right now. And who knows what with Geno Smith and where that goes. But I think that's where in the NFC is Seattle, going to poised to make a run. I don't think so, but they got a lot of playmakers, and you shut down those playmakers, and you made a lot of plays on defense, and you shut down that crowd. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the Packer fans in Seattle last night.
Yeah, I had never covered a Packers game in Seattle. I covered a Raiders Seahawks preseason game there in 2017 or 2018 when I was covering the Raiders. But last night, man, holy moly. I mean, Matt LaFleur said it after the game. He was shocked how much noise the Packer fans made when the Packers were on defense. Go Pack, go chants ringing. And you'll hear smatterings of those throughout away games. But I've never, in my 6 years covering this team, and others on the beat can speak much better to this because they've been covering the team for a lot longer, I've never heard Go Pack, go chants at an away game like that last night. I have not. Filling the stadium, forcing the Seahawks fans to try and drown them out with boos. And it's not like the Seahawks are some bum.
No.
Like, they were top of the NFC West. It's not like they have no reason to show up to these games. Xavier McKinney tweeted about the fans today. I think it makes a little bit of a difference, to be quite honest with you, that fan support intangibly, but also from a noise aspect. Obviously, Seahawks fans are great. They retired a number for their fans. They're still a solid group. But, we talk about Lambeau Field not really offering much of a home field advantage in terms of weather anymore. Lumen Field, now, which it's known, is supposed to be one of the biggest home field advantages in the NFL in terms of noise. It was not last night. So I applaud the Packers fans for showing out. That can be another final judgment here. That was the best away game fan performance that I've seen in my 6 years on the beat. So we get a bonus final judgment. So Hunter's that's the signature win of the season. Mine is Edgerrin Cooper will be a Pro Bowler here in the near future, and best show on the road from the fans since 2019.
I have one more bonus one. Can I add one more bonus one?
Let's go. One more. As long as Habush, and Rotier pays us double this week.
Yeah, right. So I say that I have no hesitation with the Packers going on the road in the playoffs. Like, that just does not worry me at all. The fact that they wouldn't have a home game. Most likely they won't. A lot of things would have to happen for them to do so. So it looks like, especially that first game, probably 2 would be on the road. And I have no hesitations about that because of the way they have been able to go on the road and perform well. Did they beat Detroit? No, but they were right there with them in an incredibly loud stadium, as you experience. And they've been able to go on the road and be just fine. So there's a lot of, obviously lesser teams, Jacksonville, Tennessee. You can also look at, other games where they've just been able to go on the road and part of the reason I think is obviously the crowd. It helps when you don't have to use, silent count and things like that on the road. But boy, oh boy, I'm not hesitant with them having to play a road game in the playoffs.
I'm sure the Packers still had to yesterday. We just didn't really see it affect them too much. And look, we're not poo-pooing the Seahawks fans. It's more of a compliment to the Packer fans. But
yes, that
is that for this week's final judgments, presented by Habush, and Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Go to habush.com. That's HABUSH.com. You mentioned the pass rush. That's what I wrote my main story on last night. Arguably their best game of the season, considering the stakes, considering where they were, considering, they needed a win to really keep pace in this playoff race. Not necessarily keep pace, but keep distance from the teams barking at their heels like the Rams, for example. And now the Seahawks, since the Seahawks are out of the playoff picture, the Commanders, even you can throw into that bunch since they are the 7 seed. Packers are currently the 6. Let me throw some numbers at you from the pass rush. Packers had 7 sacks last night from 6 different guys, 12 quarterback hits from 9 different guys. Their pressure percentage last night, so the percentage of Seahawks dropbacks that resulted in a pressure, 45.2%. The highest team pressure rate in the NFL this season is 41.7%. So the Packers' pressure rate last night was better than any team pressure rate in the NFL this season. Only one team has over 40% pressure rate on the season, Packers 45.2 last night. The Packers' sack rate last night, 17.9%. So they sacked Seahawks quarterbacks on 17.9% of their dropbacks. The highest team sack rate in the NFL this season, 9.4%. Just a dominant performance from the Packers pass rush. They don't blitz much. They only blitzed about 9% of the time on 9% of Seattle's dropbacks last night. All 7 Packers sacks came on non-blitzes, so when they were rushing 4 or fewer. And we've talked a million times on this show throughout the season about these simulated pressures. And there was one on the opening 3rd down of the game for the Seahawks when the Packers crowd 6 guys at the line of scrimmage. But at the snap, Quay Walker and Kingsley Enagbari, the press box PA announcer couldn't pronounce it right. The announcers pronounce it differently than Kingsley pronounces it. Kingsley's pronounced it differently multiple times, I'm pretty sure. Enagbari is how he pronounces it on the Sunday Night Football intros. So we're going with Enagbari.
Well, that's
emphasis
what you've done.
on the
You've been the only one really to do that.
emphasis on the NAG, on the second
Yes.
syllable there. Enagbari.
Yeah, you've been the only one that I've heard that has actually done that.
Well, I've got it wrong plenty of times too. On that opening sequence, I can't remember why I mentioned Kingsley Enagbari. Oh, because on the simulated pressure, Kingsley Enagbari and Quay Walker drop into coverage. Edgerrin Cooper blitzes, runs a pick game with Kenny Clark, where Edgerrin Cooper kind of bumps the right guard with his right shoulder. Kenny Clark loops around the left side. The running back who's blocking Edgerrin Cooper has to shift over to Clark while the center blocks Clark. And by the time the right guard is like, oh, Kenny Clark just moved, Edgerrin Cooper's already passed him. And it was interesting. Cooper said after the game, a weakness that the Packers realized in the week of film prep for the Seahawks offensive line was that there was a lot of space on those pick games on the interior. So they took advantage of that. They used a simulated pressure, which kind of just confuses the defense because are you going to send 6? Are you going to drop 1 into coverage? Are you going to drop 2 into coverage? And for those not aware of why it's called a simulated pressure, is you're still sending 4. So 6 guys at the line of scrimmage. You drop Quay Walker and Kingsley Enagbari. But the 4 that are sent includes a non-defensive lineman instead of a defensive lineman. So it's not just a standard rush of 4, but it's still a rush of 4 with a different kind of pressure because you're sending a guy who's not a defensive lineman. Those have worked for the Packers this season, worked yesterday. So credit to Jeff Hafley and his staff for drawing those up, scheming different things up. That was 2 little twists on one play. The simulated pressure and the pick game that Kenny Clark and Edgerrin Cooper ran for the first sack of the game, the first of 7. So just a really good plan by the Packers pass rush yesterday. And it didn't really matter who the quarterback was for the Seahawks. They were up 20-3 when Geno Smith got hurt, which you never want to see, obviously. Kenny Clark said after the game, the defensive front did smell blood in the water with Seattle's offensive line. But he also said, backup quarterback gets in there. He's probably not as comfortable back there. So we took advantage of that too. I'm paraphrasing what he said. I don't have the quote right in front of me. But all in all, I think a performance from the pass rush comparable to week 3 against the Titans when they had 8 sacks, 12 quarterback hits. Last night, 7 sacks, 12 quarterback hits. You could argue, like I said, their best pass rushing performance of the season, considering what was at stake last night.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting on the text line. Zach in Plymouth said, well, Matt, he also, Edgerrin Cooper had a pick on Sam Howell, which was a terrible throw. I think Cooper is great, but let's not get out of control. But sure, but it's still a nice play and added to what he had already done in the entirety of the game.
Do we have a caller? I saw you pick up the phone.
Yes, we do. Ben in Hartford is joining us on the Matt Schneidman Show.
Ben in Hartford, what do we got? How you doing on this fine Monday?
Good. How you doing, Matt?
Good.
I sent you a tweet yesterday during the game. You probably didn't see it because you were working, but I'd like to cash in the receipt from your Thursday feast pick. I'd like to point that out that you picked against the Packers. Just a little fun jib in there. But one thing that I did notice when I was watching the game, and I don't know, I want to get your opinion on this. And the way that I can explain what I'm trying to think is, the third place team in the SEC is always going to be better than the winner of the Mountain West Conference. And I kind of feel like that's what the Green Bay Packers were to Seattle. Like, I don't think enough people put the emphasis on the battle-tested, what we've had to go through in our division, because we just came out and we just punched them. And we were just way out-physical them in the beginning. And I know that LaFleur talked about how he didn't call the best game in the second half, which led to a lot of things. But you just watched us, and it just looked like we were just so much more of a seasoned team. We were just so much more in control of the things that we wanted to do and how we wanted to do them. And, so far this season, everybody said, well, Josh Jacobs has created that. But I think Hafley's defense and the way he's getting that defense to play is just a completely different attitude and mentality. And that leads into something I saw today, which I didn't check, I didn't cross-reference, but I saw that we are in the top 10 defense in 4 of the major statistical categories in defense. Yards per play, points per game, sacks, and turnovers. So the sacks one surprised me because we've been complaining about their pass rush all year, but I think we're 6th in the league in total amount of sacks, which is pretty incredible. And so it's just really, really interesting to see those things coming to fruition towards the end of the year. And then the last thing before I hang up, one thing that I would be interested to hear the next time you guys talk with LaFleur is, what did the Seahawks do differently in the second half that completely stymied the inside run game? Is it something they did? Were we not executing as well? It just seemed like Josh Jacobs would be, instead of popping it for 7 or 8 yards in the first half, he was getting 1 or 2 yards. And I'd be interested to hear, did they change something schematically? Did we not execute the way that we should have? It would be interesting to hear what that was. So I'll hang up now. And thanks for picking against us, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Ben. I'm going to try and remember the 4 things you brought up there. So one, you all know, if you listen to the show, you know that I pride myself on being an objective reporter. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's not the first time I'm going to pick against the Packers and be wrong. It's not the last time I'm going to pick against the Packers and be wrong. I went off what I thought was going to happen in the game, and I was wrong. So Packer fans, feel free to rub it in my face. Number 2, I'm pretty sure, who's the 3rd best team in the SEC right now? There's Texas, there's Georgia, Alabama, probably.
Probably, right? They're just outside of the playoff.
Would Alabama be able to stop Ashton Genty? I don't know. So maybe this year is not a great year to reference that, but I get what you're saying. That's something Chris Collinsworth mentioned on the broadcast when I was rewatching it today. Excuse me, was, the Packers have been hardened by Eagles, Vikings, Lions twice.
Yeah.
And yes, the NFC West is a good division, but it's not the NFC North. So I think there is something to that. Was it on us for underestimating that? I don't think so. Seahawks are still a good team. They were playing at their place. They had won 4 in a row. But in hindsight, maybe we should have valued that a little bit more. And regarding the Josh Jacobs thing, Josh Jacobs did address that after the game last night. He attributed kind of the stagnancy, if you will, of the run game later on to the Seahawks putting more guys in the box and then playing just more downhill with their defenders from the 2nd and 3rd levels of the defense, I would imagine he was talking about. But he did use the word downhill to describe more how they were playing. Look, when you're having as much productivity as the Packers were early on in the run game, you saw in that first drive, sure, were they all 8-yard runs? No, but it was punch, 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 3, 4, 6. There was a 19, an 8 later in the game, a 9. But you're right, not only just the fumble, but it seemed those hards were really hard to come by. There weren't any holes. Even for a guy like Josh Jacobs, who ranks 2nd in the NFL in missed tackles forced with 60, behind only James Conner's 61. it was just 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. But that's what defenses are going to do when you're shredding them so early. And that perhaps open up some stuff in the play action game and open up some stuff downfield.
Yeah.
That's why this offense is so dangerous, because if Josh Jacobs is going to hit you early and march down the field on the first drive, that forces an extra guy to come down in the box, which takes an extra guy out of the second and third levels of the defense to guard against a quarterback who can sling it with the best of them. To pick your poison with this Packers offense, which is what makes them so dangerous, Hunter.
Well, yeah, and I want to go back as well to that talk about the NFC and where the SEC is. I guess technically third would be Tennessee.
Oh, that's right. I
Factoring
forgot
that in,
about
'cause
Tennessee.
They're into the playoffs, so Alabama will probably be 4. But either way, that is it. When you look at the NFC, Lions, Eagles, Vikings, Packers is record wise where it is right now, and I think it's not always like this, but the records are exactly where I think the NFC is. I think the Lions are the best. Eagles are right there. You could argue the Eagles are maybe better right now. They're both 12-2. The Vikings are right behind them. Vikings could win their 12th tonight and be also 12-2. Then the Packers are the other one at 10 wins. And then it's the Commanders at 9. And then you have the Buccaneers and you have the Rams at 8 wins. But the Packers they're a top 5 team in the NFC. They're 4th best. And they're only 4th best because they've lost to the other 3. But they've hung with the other ones. Jordan Love had it with, could have led the game-winning drive against the Eagles in Brazil. Obviously gets hurt. Lions, we've talked about. First game didn't give them their best shot. Could have won the second game. And then the Vikings come back. But I just think overall, it really is a difference between the NFC North teams, the Lions, Vikings, and Packers, the top team in the NFC East, the Eagles, maybe even put the Commanders in there. And then the South and the West just is a full level below. Like it is significant, the drop off of where these teams are at. So I think Ben has a good point there, where it's just and that's why I like the Packers in the playoffs, no matter who they're playing. And sure, upsets happen. Sure, could Tampa get hot and Baker Mayfield have a great game and somehow Tampa? Sure, that can happen. But it really is. I think we forget sometimes, because the Packers are the 5 or 6 seed right now. They're the 6. That Packers are one of the top teams in the NFL, for sure one of the top teams in the NFC, and probably in a top 10 team in the NFL, if not top 6, 7 team.
Absolutely. And before we get to a break, I think that's the funny thing about narratives here. And I love that word. Last week we're saying, Packers aren't in the class of the Lions. 1 week later, the Lions lose Carlton Davis, Aleem McNeil, David Montgomery. A shame what's happened to them this season. Can they still win a Super Bowl? Sure, but it's going to be really tough. And now after a road win in Seattle, we're saying, okay, are the Packers more dangerous to the Eagles than the Lions are? I mean, it's funny how, funny is not the right word, but it's interesting how these narratives shape on a week-to-week basis. And I remembered Ben's other point, how the Packers ranked top 10 in 4 important defensive categories. Scoring defense, they are currently 8th in 20.5 points allowed per game. And then sacks, they are tied for 6th with 40. Yards per play allowed, they are 8th. And then takeaways, they've been near the top of the takeaway chart lately. It's kind of been slow in recent weeks, but yesterday they got 2. And hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Takeaways, they are 4th with 26, beyond the Steelers, Texans, and Vikings. So yes, Ben, I assume you saw that somewhere on Twitter, but I can confirm via the reporting of the Matt Schneidman Show that all of those are correct. All right, let's get to a quick break here on the Matt Schneidman Show. After the break, we got a lot more to dive into regarding this Packers 30, Seahawks 13 performance from Sunday night. Saints week. Spencer Rattler coming into Lambeau Field. We'll get into that much later in the week, but a lot more to tackle from last night. Stick with us. It's Matt Schneidman Show right here on The Game.
To the days before this was a job, before I got paid, before it ever mattered what I had.
If you were to ask someone who's most likely to screw up a Christmas gift, almost everyone would say it's me. KB here from the Drew and KB Show.
Supreme. This is the game.
Love under center. And he takes, hands it off to Jacobs, plowing the middle to the end zone. Touchdown!
I always want to set the tone, so it feels good to me, but I'm not going to lie, I was tired. At the end of it, I looked up, I'm like, bro, how long we had the ball? I'm one of the players, man, where it don't matter if I'm dead tired. I feel like if it's an important play or anything, I'm going to stay on the field, so I just rounded it up.
10 plays on the Packers' opening drive, 9 of them to Josh Jacobs. For a second there, I thought that Josh Jacobs knew I needed about 60 points from him in fantasy to win my playoff matchup. Instead, I just need 50 from Brock Bowers tonight. So my hopes of winning my fantasy football championship are over. But nonetheless, a strong start to last night's game from Josh Jacobs. We discussed in the first segment how it kind of waned off from there after the Seahawks changed their defensive approach against the run. But Jacobs' hot start and the Packers' clinical opening drive, marching down the field for 7 points, forcing a punt, and marching down the field again for another 7. What a difference a fast start can make. You remember against the Lions 2 Thursdays ago in Detroit, Jordan Love 3 for 7 in the first half, 31 yards. Packers were down 2 scores at half. I think it was, 17-7 at halftime of that game, I believe. And the Packers, after the game, lamented the slow start. That's kind of 17-7. All right, my memory's not that bad for 2.5 hours of sleep. Matt LaFleur was first to lament after that game in Detroit how the slow offensive start eventually doomed them. They obviously pulled it together, eventually scored 31 points in the game. But you want to start fast, set the tone, especially when you're on the road in a hostile environment. Well, guess what the Packers did last night? Get out to a 14-0 lead. And not only does that help them on offense, obviously, get some momentum, build them a cushion for what were eventually struggles through the next couple quarters, but it forces the Seahawks into more passing situations. And we've heard a bunch of times Matt LaFleur say, well, we were down multiple scores early, so we kind of abandoned the run. Maybe we did so a little early. The Packers getting out to a 14-0 lead. Kingsley Enagbari mentioned this after the game. That allowed the pass rush to pin its ears back in these obvious passing situations. So, you know what we call that, Hunter? Complimentary ball. Here's the Packers starting quarterback talking about this week's fast start after last game's slow start.
Such a fast start. Those first 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. You guys really look like you were in a rhythm out there.
Yeah, no, that is definitely something that we've focused on all week. We've talked about all week is starting fast. You know, something that the week before we didn't do a good enough job on. So it was definitely something that we focused on, and I think we did a great job of coming out fast, putting up some touchdowns early, and defense doing a great job getting the ball back for us. But that's when we're at our best is starting fast, getting the ball, putting up points, and going from there.
What kind of comfort does it give to a quarterback when you got a running back you just start a game and give it to it 8 straight times?
Mm-hmm. A lot of confidence, especially when he's running the ball the way he is and coming up with some big games right there. I think when that guy's hot, you just want to keep giving him the ball and feeding him. And I think just his ability to stay in there and just take those hits and keep running the way he does. It's a special player for sure.
And we look at this turnaround for you individually since the bye. How much of that's because, when you have that running game, it seems to make things easier at your position throughout the league, right?
Definitely. Whenever you're running the ball well, the next stop is the defense going to try and figure out a way to take that away. And, they might load the box more, do things like that. So anytime you can run the ball, I think it just helps set up play action too and set up some more stuff down the field.
Josh Jacobs, 26 carries last night. His 4th game in 14 with the Packers with 25 or more carries. Aaron Jones, 1 such game in 102 games with the Packers. I don't want to harp on this point, but Aaron Jones, I don't think gets the ball 9 times out of 10 on an opening drive. Super productive running back. I always want to add the caveat. He's a first ballot Packers Hall of Famer, one of the best running backs in Packers history. But Josh Jacobs, Hunter, just brings something different to this team.
He does. And it's interesting because I feel like him and Jeff Hafley have brought different elements to 2 spots on the Packers team in 2024. And not that their running back position was needing an upgrade. Like it wasn't like, oh, we need the Green Bay Packers sat down and said, we need to get a better running back. I don't think that was necessarily the case. They had an opportunity to get better and younger at the position. Thus, they've talked at length about the decision. But I think when it comes to that, and then when it also comes to the defense, I think the defense more so, they knew they needed to improve on that side of the football. And they both brought just kind of the pin the ears back and just the different mentality. And we've heard people around the league say it. We've heard reporters say it, broadcasters say it. The physicality of the team is different this year. And Jeff Hafley's brought that to the defense, and Josh Jacobs brought that to the Packers backfield. And I think that is a big reason why they are 10-4 this year.
So Thursday night against the Lions, the Packers do nothing on offense in the first half and then end up with 31 points. They come alive in the second half. This game, they score 20 points in the first half, score on all 4 of their offensive drives, 2 touchdowns, then 2 field goals. And then they kind of not fall apart, but roll out a clunker in the second half. There were 8 consecutive drives after those first 2 touchdowns, including 2 in the first half that did not end in touchdowns. There were a couple punts in there, turnover on downs, a Josh Jacobs fumble. Imagine what this offense, and last night they still scored 30. So imagine what this offense can do when it puts together 4 quarters. I mean, the last 4 games, they have scored 38, 30, 31, 30. That's not bad.
No.
Jordan Love, Toyota-thon Jordan Love. I'm buying into Toyota-thon Jordan Love now. I'm all the way in.
Good.
I mean, he's not throwing for 350 yards a game, but after 11 interceptions in his first 8 appearances, 0 in his last 4 games. He's only been sacked 3 times. 872 passing yards. That's an average of 218 per game. 7 passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 425 total yards in those 4 games with 8 total touchdowns. And 3 different leading receivers in those 4 games. Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft, and Christian Watson. The Packers offense is coming alive, and they're figuring out a way to put points on the board, even with large stretches of struggle, I should say. I think that's a fair way to put it. Last night, it was a struggle. Matt LaFleur said in his post-game speech to the team, in the video that the Packers put out, they got a lot of things to work on the offensive side of the ball. And I want to use that to transition into a little bit of, it looks like we have a call, so we'll wait till the Matt LaFleur sound that we have. But I think the encouraging thing, if you're a Packer fan, is, okay, they're putting up 30, which should be good enough to win you any game, and they're not playing a complete game, really. And you're always going to have lulls during games. You're rarely going to put together a perfect 4 quarters, but the Packers in the last 2 games have almost gone silent for an entire half on offense, and they're still putting up points because they can just get hot and get on a roll and put up points at any time. And in the Lions game, it was that Keyshawn Nixon pick that turned into 7 points against the Seahawks to seal it at the end. It was the Edgerrin Cooper pick that turned into 7 points. That's complimentary ball, Hunter Baumgardt.
It is. And, I know earlier I said that my final judgment was that this was the signature win of the year. I still think it was, but I also think the most complete game of the year was the game against the 49ers, because that offense was relentless, and that was 38 points. And so when you're talking about and looking at that Lions-Bills game yesterday and how those teams can put up points, they don't go through lulls. So, that's maybe the one thing that I would be worried about in the playoffs if you face a Lions team. But look, I don't think the Eagles can put up numbers and they can put up points, but I don't know if they're at the level of constant point production that the Lions offense is. Now, the Lions without Dave Montgomery, we'll see how that is. Obviously, they still have Gibbs, but that is maybe the one thing where I think, okay, maybe there's, again, like against the Lions, maybe you have one where you start slow, and that can be the difference later when you lose by 3.
The Eagles have a really good defense. That's the difference between them and the Lions. They have perhaps, I'm looking where the scoring defense is, 3rd in the NFL, tied for 1st in the NFL, 17.6 points allowed per game. So the Eagles defense is way better than the Lions defense, it seems, at least in recent weeks, especially with the Lions injuries. We have another caller on the line.
We do. Taylor from Oconomowoc giving us a call here. Taylor, welcome to the Matt Schneidman Show.
Hey, thanks, guys. I just wanted to comment. You guys are talking about the acquisitions with Jacobs, and on the defense side of the ball, I think that there's really one of the bigger acquisitions that kind of falls to the wayside is Brandon McManus. I think we need to talk about that a little bit and your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And listen, I talked about this on Mike Heller's show earlier today. It's not like Brandon McManus is being asked to kick 60 yarders like Brandon Aubrey and 55 yarders, but there's just a calm and ease that comes along with the Packers kicking position. Whereas in past years, or I should say last year in the first half of this season, or the first 6 games, I should say, that was anything but. Matt LaFleur had the quote that he claims was taken out of context by Tom Rinaldi in their production meeting before the 49ers playoff game, where Matt LaFleur said he prays every time Anders Carlson goes out. He is still upset that Tom Rinaldi took that to air and allegedly took him out of context. But guess what? I would not blame him if he prayed when Anders Carlson walked out there. I actually added it up earlier today just for my own amusement. With Anders Carlson and Braden Narvison, it was something like 89 for 105 or 84 for 105. So 80 something for 105 in field goals and extra points, which is around 84% on all kicks. Narvison didn't miss an extra point. I believe he went 16 for 16 this year after Carlson missed a couple last year. Brandon McManus, 37 for 38 on kicks. Now, he's only had a couple of 45 and above. I believe his only miss was from 46 in the rain against the Lions. He had the 51-yarder against the 49ers. Had the 45-yarder to walk off the Texans in his first game with the Packers. They've mostly been chip shots and sub-40 kicks. But you'd rather easy stuff and stress-free stuff and what you're getting from Brandon McManus than the constant emotional roller coaster that it was, no matter when Anders Carlson and Braden Narvison kicked, whether it was from 41 or an extra point or 39, there was that agita because you just didn't know if these young kickers figuring it out on the fly would have a learning moment when it mattered a lot in a game. Brandon McManus, he's been doing this for over a decade. He's won a Super Bowl. Ironically enough, the last time Brandon McManus was in the playoffs was 2015 when the Broncos won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning against the Seahawks.
Wow.
So Brandon McManus, no tough ones last night. 39 was his longest. But I will say, that's a good point. That is a big offseason, or not offseason, midseason acquisition, because has it made a huge difference in terms of when the Packers go for it, when they're in field goal range, or how long they're willing to stretch their kicker's range? No. But it just brings a calm throughout the entire team when the kicker steps out on the field, and I think that's worth something.
Oh, for sure. And he has done exactly what the Packers wanted him to do since they brought him in. I mean, 37 of 38. You can't ask for anything better than that. I mean, he's going to miss a kick here or there, and you don't want it to be against the Lions, obviously, but it was in the rain, and that makes sense. So that was, again, another move that upgraded. You can, like Taylor said, you can talk about Jacobs, you can talk about Jeff Hafley, Brandon McManus. Those are
Xavier McKinney.
These are all spots on the field where the Packers had weaknesses last year that didn't help them, win as many games as they would have liked and go 9-8. And now this year, those are all upgrades. And so you hope that can help them. And I think they've been a more complete team this year. I think, now they've won 10 games. They've won already. We're not even at Christmas yet. We're 9 days to Christmas, just so everybody knows. Get your shopping done if you still need to. But we're there, and the Packers already have more wins than they did last year, and there's 3 games left.
Absolutely. And if you remember, we talk about, power ranking the NFC. Still think you have to put the 3 teams ahead of the Packers.
Yeah.
But it is worth noting, the Packers lost that game to the Vikings in week 4, 31-29. And Braden Narvison missed 2 field goals in that game. If Brandon McManus is kicking in that game, do the Packers win? I would say yes. But you can't revise history. Packers will get another chance to beat the Vikings at their place in 2 weeks, like they did last year. And they went up there and won to keep their season alive. Don't think the Packers have to win their final 3 games this season to make the playoffs. The NFL normally puts out the playoff clinching scenarios at the beginning of every week. I think it's on Tuesday or Wednesday of every week. So those will come out. I believe the Packers just need to win one of their final 3 games to make the playoffs. But obviously, seeding implications are part of that. So you're probably going to root for the Commanders to lose, NFC West teams to lose, and obviously Packers to win. And maybe even if you want to get up to the 5 seed, Vikings to lose to the Bears tonight.
Yeah.
Packer fans are Bear fans tonight. And I do not expect the Lions to collapse with all their injuries. Losing David Montgomery stinks for them, but they still have Jahmyr Gibbs. They still have a high-powered offense capable of putting up a crap ton of points. But what if the Lions go on a little bit of a slide? Is there a minute chance the Packers still contend for the division? I'm just playing. They've got
the Bears next, then the 49ers, and then
okay,
the
never mind. All right, so Packers wild card spot 2024-2025 playoffs. This is Matt Schneidman show. Sorry, go ahead.
Chicago
I was
and
going to go into the next break.
Chicago and San Fran are on the road, but you never know.
No, I think you do know. Lions are going to win both those games. I think you do know. All right, we got a little more to get to on the other side of this break, wrapping up some loose odds and ends from last night's Packers' dominant victory over the Seahawks at Lambeau Field West. 1,399 miles, or no, I looked it up last night. 1,933 miles from Lambeau Field in what felt like a Packers home game at times. We'll discuss that and more on the other side of the break. This is the Matt Schneidman Show right here on The Game.
I'm all good already, so moved on, it's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. So
A Sunday victory in Seattle.
Snap to Love, has time. Lofts it, middle of the end zone for Dobbs. Diving grab. Touchdown. Oh, what a play.
Stay with the game all day as we break down the win over the Seahawks.
Cruz in Waukesha with a medical emergency on Grandview Boulevard south of Summit, and he had a crash in West Dallas, south 105th, south of Oklahoma. Elsewhere, trouble-free on 43 and 4145. If you see any issues, call the Tri-City National Bank, your hometown bank total traffic tip line, 414-944-5111.
This report is sponsored by Universal Windows Direct. Schedule your free in-home estimate today and get a free upgrade to triple pane glass. Plus, for every 2 windows you buy, you get the next 2 free. And they'll double your energy tax credit. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com. If you have a 2004 or newer vehicle that's out of warranty or about to be, Endurance is urgently notifying U.S. drivers about their low-cost vehicle coverage plan designed to save drivers thousands on rising vehicle repair costs. Those who qualify can pick their plan, coverage, and repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental cars included. All covered repairs get paid directly to the repair shop for you. Call now for your free quote. Call 800-431-8958. That's 800-431-8958.
This holiday season, give yourself the gift of a new car from the International Autos Group and get savings up to $15,000. And 0% financing is available for 72 months. Every model in our 2,000 car inventory is priced to sell. The International Autos Group, Milwaukee, Waukesha, Sheboygan, and Brown Deer, or at IAAutogroup.com, where our ordinary needs to be extraordinary. Financing with approved credit, $1,388 per month per $1,000 financed on select models.
Hey, it's Brian Butch for Window Nation. And, well, we know what's coming, the holiday season, which means everything is expensive. And you're wasting your hard-earned money out your bad windows. So right now, make sure that you get in touch with Window Nation. Right now, it's their end-of-year sale. Get 50% off all styles of windows with a bonus 10% off. Plus, you could get 0 interest for 6 years. So imagine what you can do with all that money you saved. The holidays are right around the corner. Sale ends December 31st, so schedule your fast in-home estimate right now at 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com.
Oh, by the way, Ivan's no longer on the project. His wife got a new job, so they're moving across the country.
Robin's top researcher is deviating to a new market. This isn't standard.
And now we're short-staffed. Who's going to finish all these projects?
She needs a cluster of new data analysts, and there's no margin for error.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in. So no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
The Fox 6 weather experts are presented by AdventKnows.com.
Mostly cloudy and windy tonight. Temperatures dropping through the 30s this evening and settling around 30 overnight. Mostly cloudy on Tuesday with a high of 36. A wintry mix and light snow possible late Tuesday night. I'm Fox 6 Chief Meteorologist Tom Walks.
This report is sponsored by BecomeATeacher.com. Are you looking for a job where you can earn competitive pay, get great benefits, and change lives in your community every day? The answer is teaching. Get started at BecomeATeacher.com today. That's BecomeATeacher.com.
97.3 The Game.
Howell with the shotgun set back to his right, takes the snap, everybody out for pass, through the middle,
Intercepted!
Intercepted! And it's coming back, it's Edgerrin Cooper inside the 35 to the number 30. Down he goes near the 26-yard line. And there is your dagger delivered by the rookie, Edgerrin Cooper.
It feels real good. I was very hungry to get back out there and do what I did, and it just meant a lot. And I'm thankful for my teammates and everybody around them for doing their job.
I like Larry McCarron's all right. The sigh of relief.
Yes, this one is all right. We can now be calm.
All right. Couple quick hitters here. First, we got to shout out our lovely sponsor, Iron Jock. Let Iron Jock take the stress out of your holiday shopping now through December 29th. When you buy $75 or more, take 40% off your entire order with promo code HOLIDAY40! Exclamation point. I don't think the exclamation point is in the promo code. So HOLIDAY40. Now's your chance to get the best performance apparel at the best price. 40% off through December 29th. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. Okay, couple quick hitters. Number one, Carrington Valentine. Those are the types of plays you need to make if Jair Alexander is not in the lineup. Reads kind of the fade back shoulder. I don't know exactly what it was perfectly. A couple plays before, breaks it up because Smith and Jigba, gets Valentine's right hand, knocks the ball down, and then drops back, kind of fools Geno Smith there. Eric Wilson and Carl Brooks speed up Smith, who makes a kind of clumsy decision to loft it into the back left corner. Valentine drops off his route, not in the flat, but kind of deeper than that, to where Evan Williams makes an over-the-shoulder grab for the pick as the Seahawks are driving. His first career pick. That was a huge play in the game. Romeo Doubs. He's not going to put up otherworldly numbers, but he's a sure-handed receiver who probably hit leg day every single day he was in concussion protocol, because good heavens, that first catch and then muscling his way into the end zone was impressive. And then even more impressive was the clincher he had. Coming off the Edgerrin Cooper pick, where Love on 3rd and 5 lofts a beauty to Doubs in the back center of the end zone, and Doubs makes the falling catch, somehow getting his left hand under it, I believe, in the coverage of Tariq Woolen there. So Romeo Doubs, huge part of this offense. Can the Packers compensate for his loss? Sure, but you'd rather have him. Couple injury notes. Quay Walker, saw him limping very heavily coming out of the locker room after the game. Ankle injury. He'll be one to monitor this week after he went down on a Geno Smith scramble. It looked like he kind of just leaped over Geno Smith to avoid getting a penalty and maybe came down funny on it. Then Christian Watson was being looked at on the sideline after the final offensive play of the game. He said after the game that he just got kicked in the shin and he's fine. So if you watch the video the Packers put out of players, celebrating with fans leaving the tunnel, Watson's leaping up to high five fans, so he's fine. Quickly, I want to get to this audio since this was a big talking point during the game last night. The mismanagement of the clock at the end of the first half. On second down, let about 20 seconds go off the clock. Packers were probably going to get 3 points on the drive anyway. But in hindsight, if Doubs draws that deep pass interference, maybe you have more than 4 seconds to run a play from whatever yard line that was on. Instead, the Packers have to send out the field goal team, settle for 3 points. Didn't matter in the end, but here's what Matt LaFleur had to say about that sequence.
I totally mismanaged the end of the half. I mean, that was 100% on me. Just being too indecisive, putting it on Jordan. given him a call at the line of scrimmage. It just took far too long. So that is something that can't happen, and that can cost us if it were a tighter game. So that one's on me.
Were you thinking they're just get into field goal range and get into a half 17 point?
Not necessarily. It was a moment where I was indecisive, and then didn't want to call timeout because too much time had ticked off the clock, and then I should have called timeout and didn't. It was just poor management and something that can't happen.
Jordan was checking to a play. Is that
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I gave him free reign to get to what he wanted to, and but I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more decisive and had a play called for us. Got on the ball. Definitely did not want to give him the ball back before the end of the half, but once we got into midfield, we needed to be more aggressive, and that was just lousy play calling by me.
So, kind of backs up what we all thought in the moment. They screwed that one up, but they still got 3 points out of it. So, didn't really matter in the end in a 17-point win. I don't think that'll be a point of discussion on the Matt LaFleur podcast tomorrow, since that's just about as extensively as Matt LaFleur can address that whole situation. But maybe we'll talk about how the Packers are 0 for 6 on challenges this season. Tomorrow, Matt LaFleur podcast being recorded. That will be out on Wednesday. Clips of that 25-minute-ish sit-down with myself and the Packers head coach, recorded by the lovely Doug Russell, will be airing on this station's programs all throughout the day Wednesday, then in full for the first time on this here show, starting at about 6:02, 6:03 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday night. Looking forward to sitting down with the Packers head coach, New Brick in the Stick, coming out tomorrow. John Kuhn and I recording at Potawatomi in the Potawatomi Sportsbook studio. And then Hunter and I will be right back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m., talking a little more Packers Seahawks with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, and then starting to look ahead on a long week to Packers Saints. Spencer Rattler perhaps coming into Lambeau Field. Packers not needing a win, but to clinch a playoff spot with a couple games to go, a win would be nice against the lowly Saints at Lambeau Field. We appreciate everybody for listening on this fine Monday. I'm going to go to sleep. He's Hunter. I'm Matt. We'll catch you tomorrow.